My dad have had the old truck and the excavator up and running and moved some material from the sand pit we have to up near the house for some future projects. There is about 100 meters of climbing to do. That's the downside of having a great view and the house on a hill, that you might have to fight the climbing hills every now and then. So seem to have some minor issues with the excavator. It might be some gunk still in the fuel tank. It has been struggling and sound like it's starving of fuel every now and then. There will be quite a long drone video footage. I actually had flown over it twice, and the first one was a lot better, it felt like, but I had forgot to push record on that one. So this is what you get, and I missed the piece here because it lost connection and wanted to return back home. And at like 7 minutes and 20 seconds, I had a close call. I think one of the rotors snagged a branch, and but it recovered. It didn't fall down, and I can't see any damage to it, so that's good. And jump to like 14 minutes if you don't want to see the drone flight, or start some music for a few minutes, and I'll be back at around 14 minutes doing a few more explanation why we're doing this, and also a few of the issues with starting the truck. And here you can see the bigger pile we have made. If you watched all the video footage, you saw my dad dump a truckload next to the garage. We might smooth out the area next to that and also have another place to fill out. And the sand, that's the material that I've found so far on the property that's free of rocks and other stuff. So if you want to get a smooth surface, it's not maybe the best building material like that, but it's what I have. The truck had the electric engine heater on it for a few hours. We had to fill a little bit of coolant in it for some reason. It had lost a couple of liters. It's hard when the temperatures shift. It's not uncommon for a little bit of coolant to creep out from one of the hoses somewhere if it's not tightened properly, but it wasn't a whole lot oil and so on. Last time we had it up and running, it has the alcohol in the air system to keep moisture from causing issues, and ice plugs that was filled back then, the canister for that, and it fired up super nicely. It took a while to build air pressure, and it had some issue with fully releasing the brakes, but activating the brakes, pumping the pedals a few times, and releasing the safety valve. Brakes do not seem to drag. I was a little bit worried about that. It's been a while since we had it up and running. The little lip on the back, it's an air cylinder that should push that up, but I think we have some corrosion in the hinge here. It's not moving smoothly, and if you watch the drone footage you could see that it didn't fully go all the way up, but good enough for now. So I'm not gonna, we did spray it some, and it started working a little bit, so I'll something for the future. It should have had grease fittings on there so you could grease this hinge point, but it does not, so that's something for the far future. I don't see myself doing this unless it causes more issues. It's been standing so long that it kind of created two little divots it's standing in. There are four of them, but that's actually good, because next up we're gonna add the chains to it that are required when climbing quite steep hills now in the winter time with the load. So with the wheels in those little holes they have made, the easiest way we found to put the chains on is to simply raise the bed up for better access, and a jack under the frame, and get the wheels up in the air one side at a time. A piece of steel wire to hook onto the knobs of the tire, and it helps when you try to spin it and drag the chain onto the tire, and then starting to turn it around and try to kind of align it as best as possible and get it all the way around. There is a hook both in the middle, in between the wheels, and then one tensioner on each side. We have done some modification to these chains. They used to be longer. We have kind of shortened them to make them work better for our machine. They might have been actually built for a bigger wheel at some point. But we did play around with the inside. Has less adjustment. There are only two loose links there, and then that one we tighten as much as possible, and then the outer ones we try to take as much slack as we can out of, but it takes a little time, and readjusting the chain and tensioning it one step at a time. I did remove those stainless steel covers. They will only get damaged when used, if it's used to drive in the sand pit and such, and I wanted to gain access to check the tire pressure. A couple of the tires were a little low, and the fronts were actually a little bit on the high side. They were not too long ago replaced because they were starting to crack on the side. They were not bad in the tread, but what are you gonna do? Once we had it as tight as we feel like we can get it, this style of the tensioner with just a link holding it in place, it doesn't really work. It feels the style we have on the tractor with kind of a hook at the end works better. On the other side, we had a bit of an issue with the string, the iron wire helping to hold it kind of come undone, and my dad hadn't pushed it up really enough, so that caused some issues, but we managed. Just a short little backing out and seeing how that the chains were in place, and one of the tensioners were unhooked. It was kind of held there with a steel wire piece, so it wasn't fully unhooked, but still we needed to do something, and just adding a couple of small bolts and big washers into the part, forcing that safety link or the link it's hooked onto, that can never step out from the tensioner itself, was the solution, and it worked great. So easy and Pennytech, very cheap solution. I looked at the other kind of tensioner things, but they have their downsides, being a little trickier to hook onto the chain itself also. The wheel loader could help out making the pile higher and not wider. So now we have material for the foreseeable future to do a few projects that are in the pipeline for maybe not this summer, but the summer after that, apart from smoothing out the area next to the garage and making that a little more usable. So that's it for this video. Hope everyone is having a great day. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to write a comment.